The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, January 7th, and hope everybody's having a great week so far. We have got we've got a new show today. Hard stop in 2 hours, so we'll make it a little shorter than usual. We'll run through some of these stories fairly quickly. I'm not sure what is going on here. Somebody's calling me. Don't call me. I'm not answering. All right, let's jump in. So today, U.S. Coast Guards, and in one case, together with Special Forces teams, boarded two oil tankers, one in the Caribbean Sea, supposedly carrying sanctioned Venezuelan oil. The other, much more mysterious and much more, I guess, interesting. Hard to tell exactly what is going on with this tanker. This tanker started its journey on August 19th in the Persian Gulf in Iran. It periodically used fake location signals, but it basically traveled out of the Persian Gulf, up through the Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean. Its location was spotted on a number of different occasions, all the way across towards Venezuela. Never really made it to Venezuela. It seems to have turned around and sent a distress signal on December 21st. On January 1, it was located in the North Atlantic, somewhere just south of Greenland, on the way in the direction of Iceland, after having traveled for 2 weeks kind of in the dark with no signal. And it's been tracked since. Today, somewhere south of Iceland, between Iceland and the United Kingdom, U.S. Coast Guard and Special Forces took this ship over. Earlier in the week, I guess 2 days ago, supposedly the Russians sent a submarine escort for this ship, as well as some surface boats. And, when the United States boarded the ship today, submarine and surface boats did nothing. That is, the Russians did not intervene. By all accounts, the ship is supposed to be empty. It's one of the fleet of ghost ships. These are ships that basically transport sanctioned oil from Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. This particular ship actually is Russia flagged, or at least has been Russian flagged for the last 2 weeks. Supposedly on December 24th, the ship received a temporary permit to sail under the state flag of the Russian Federation, issued in accordance with Russian legislation and international law norms. So how to say exactly what's going on here? Today, at around 3 o'clock Moscow time, in the open seas, again, south of Iceland and north of the UK, U.S. naval forces boarded the ship and communication of the ship was lost. Hard to tell what's exactly going on. The ship's supposed to be empty. But if it's empty, why would the Russians send submarines to escort the ship? Why is the U.S. so eager to board it and to stop it? There's even talk now of flying the crew members back to the United States to stand trial. For what exactly? I mean, for running a ship that has sanctioned oil on it, but it doesn't, like, we've never done anything like this. Sanctioned ships are traveling all over the world. What is going on with this ship? What was on the ship? I don't know. I mean, and given that the ship was going from Iran to Venezuela, was it transporting weapons from Iran to Venezuela? It never made it to Venezuela. So whatever was on the ship out of Iran is still on, unless they dumped it into the ocean. And then it was heading, it looks like, from the trajectory to Russia. Maybe it is empty. Maybe it's just, this is part of the Trump administration's new effort to basically clamp down on the shadow fleet and to enforce a stricter, to enforce kind of the embargo rules around oil. It could be part of the United States being pissed off at Russia. This could be the week, the off week where Trump is pissed off at Putin before Putin calls them and makes up and sucks up to him. There are other indications to suggest that Trump is not happy with Putin. I don't know how that's got to do with this ship, although it was flying a Russian flag and the Russian submarines there. So this is, anyway, mysterious news. The news is talking a lot about this. There's video of the U.S. Troops boarding the ship. No resistance. Hard to tell what exactly is going on and why all the hubbub about it. Again, this was a ship that's formerly Guyana flagged, became Russian flagged, but is linked to Iran in some way. Maybe we'll find out in the days, maybe in hours, days, years, decades to come when they declassify it. Anyway, the Russians unhappy. Russian Foreign Office has already declared this illegal and so on. And now they are, according to the Russian Foreign Office, it seems, Russians on the ship, which is surprising. Ships like this are not usually manned by like people from Russia. So what are Russians doing on the ship? That's another one of those mysteries, right? Who are these Russians? Are they just, again, it all depends on what we believe is actually on the ship. Anyway, a Russian nationalist politician and member of the State Duma of Russia has called for Russia to sink ships with the U.S. Coast Guard in response to today's boarding, right? Quote, to attack with torpedoes to sink a couple of American Coast Guard boats. Normally, they guard their shores several thousand kilometers away from it. I think the United States, which is a kind of euphoria of impunity after the special operation in Venezuela, can only be stopped now with such a click on the nose. Yeah, let's risk World War III by bombing a few, by sinking a few American ships. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Generally, the military is, I guess Russians are ticked off right now. I mean, here's another military blogger, commentator, propagandist out of Russia lamenting the state in which Russia is in right now. Quote, we're dealing with a serious situation, a situation from which there is no beautiful and simple solution. At least I don't see such a solution from my couch. It's pretty funny, from his couch. We practically have no leverage over the United States of America, except for nuclear weapons. We're neither China nor the Soviet Union, and no one will be the winner in a nuclear war. At this stage, the United States is simply stronger and does what it wants in its hemisphere. That is a fact. Some realism, that's called political realism, out of Russia. So, the Russians are taken aback. They are unhappy, and but they have nothing. They can't do anything about it. They literally have nothing to do with it. Nothing they can do about it. Basically, as we'll talk about in a minute, the United States has full control over Venezuelan exports of oil out of the country. They control the shipping lanes out of Venezuela. They're preventing ships from leaving. We'll talk about where they want the oil to go to in a minute. Here's another of these Russian military bloggers. In the end, we ourselves created problems. First calling the tanker our own flag and urging not to touch it. And then after attempts to capture this tanker, we were unable to do anything to protect it. Once again, it turned out that empty diplomatic statements don't scare anyone anymore. Now, all that remains is to evade and complain to the United Nations. An attempt to demonstrate one's strength, not backed by real strength, turned out to be just a joke. That is Russia. That is Russia. At the end of the day, just a joke. Anyway, it turns out that we're getting now a better outline of the United States' plan for Venezuela, in particular for Venezuelan oil. It does seem like this is all about the oil, at least in Donald Trump's view. Marco Rubio is still making noises about stabilization and about moving towards reforms and stuff like that. But Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. And I doubt that any of that is really on the table. Trump is interested in the oil, and he has a plan now. He has a plan. This is what he posted. I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. I don't know about this high quality. This is that heavy oil, right? This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me. I mean, not me, me as in President Trump, as President of the United States of America, to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I've asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships. Storage ships don't transport oil, but that's another issue. And go directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So basically, Trump has declared that not only is the United States taking over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil, it will sell it, and it will pocket the money, and Donald Trump will then decide how that money is going to be distributed to the benefit of Venezuela and the United States. Chris Wright today, speaking at a investment banking conference, I think in New York City, basically, said something similar, but even more expansive. He said, instead of oil being blockaded, that is, stuck as it is right now, we're going to let the oil flow to the United States refineries and around the world to bring better oil supply, but have those sales done by the U.S. government. So the U.S. government is now becoming a global oil trader selling Venezuelan oil. So the United States, as, central planner in chief again, is going to be selling Venezuelan oil on the world market. It's going to come to the United States, maybe go directly to other countries. But it's the United States will determine which countries and at what prices and actually doing the selling. He goes on, we're going to market the crude coming out of Venezuela. First, this backed up stored oil. I think the backed up stored oil is the 30 to 50 million barrels. And then indefinitely, going forward, we will sell the production that comes out of Venezuela into the marketplace. So note, we're not now talking about American oil companies coming in and extracting oil and selling it and doing all that, paying royalties to the Venezuelans. No, we're talking about indefinitely. That's according to Chris Wright, Secretary of Energy. Indefinitely, the United States is going to be selling Venezuelan oil on global markets. The United States, as a government, not as a series of oil companies, is now a player in oil markets. Not just in the past. The U.S. did this with its kind of national reserve, the emergency national reserve. They'd release it, or prices would come down. They'd buy in order to... No, now we're literally going to take Venezuelan oil and sell it around the world. It's just... central planner in chief is something for this administration. Now, the 30 to 50 billion could yield up to $2.5 billion, the 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. Now, the proceeds of the sale would supposedly go into U.S.-controlled accounts at globally recognized banks to guarantee the legitimacy and integrity of the ultimate distribution of the proceeds. This is what, again, Chris Wright said. Now, I don't know that this fits exactly what Donald Trump's saying. I get to decide. I will decide who it goes to, where it goes to. I get to decide how that money is used. There's a constitutional problem with that. It is, after all, the power of the purse does not lie with the president. The power of the purse lies with Congress. Money that comes into the United States is handed over to Treasury and then becomes part of general revenue. The president doesn't have a pool of money he gets there. Here's a little bit to Venezuela. Here's a little to my friends and family. Here's a little bit to U.S. taxpayers. He doesn't get to do that. It's not his job. Again, Trump, assuming he's an authoritarian dictator. He's not, so he can't do it. Chris Wright, who's much more reasonable and I assume much more rational than Trump is laying out a somewhat different scenario where the money would go into international financial institutions and its allocation will be preset. It won't be at the whim and complete discretion of just Donald Trump. Supposedly, the first 50 million barrels are already sitting in barrels, either on ships that are being quarantined by the United States or in storage, ready to be shipped. So the idea is that they would all these ships will be funneled to the United States or funneled to wherever the United States decide based on the deals that the United States cuts with other governments, other companies, whatever that turns out to be. And that this will continue indefinitely. This takeover of Venezuelan oil by the U.S. government, not in compensation to U.S. oil companies, but directly to the U.S. government, it's kind of unprecedented. I don't think we've ever done anything like this. The U.S. is basically nationalizing for itself the oil that was nationalized by Venezuela when they kicked out the U.S. oil companies. Now, we'll see what happens. I have a lot of respect for Chris Wright. I mean, he is an oil guy. He knows what he's doing, but this is not his job. He is not Secretary of Energy. Is not supposed to be an oil trader. He's not supposed to be selling other countries' oils. It's not clear exactly what this is all about. And again, if there is revenue from this, it should be flowing to the Treasury, not at Trump or Wright's or anybody else's discretion. Wright has also said that he's in discussions with U.S. oil companies about the conditions for them to return to Venezuela. He stated that restoring historical production levels in the country is going to require a massive amount of investment and a huge amount of time. It's not going to happen quickly. This is going to happen over years, maybe a decade. And the reality is the industry, the oil industry, is not eager to go back. We talked about this, I think, yesterday. Very high capital requirements, projected by analysts to be in the billions, just to recover and revive the dilapidated state of Venezuela's oil sector. Who's going to guarantee personal security? Is the U.S. going to put troops on the ground in the oil fields to secure oil employees of these oil companies going there? I mean, that's problematic. Again, these oil fields are in the heartland of Venezuela, some on the shore, some of them kind of close to the mountains. These areas, you don't want to have ground troops there. You really do not want to have ground troops there fighting Venezuelan guerrillas. Who's gonna take physical security, who's gonna guarantee political stability? The United States is not occupying Venezuela, so political stability depends on what happens in Caracas. And the whole payment system, who pays, currency. Anyway, we will see now, in addition, Wright said, now in order to get oil out of the ground in Venezuela, you actually have to use in order to make the oil transportable, you actually have to blend it. The oil in Venezuela is so heavy. You have to actually blend it with light crude oil in order to actually, make it transportable. Wright said that the United States is going to provide the light crude oil in order to blend with the heavy oil in order to get it out of there. So we're basically running the Venezuelan oil industry. I mean, this is all assuming Venezuela is going along with this and will fully cooperate. Supposedly, the administration is going to market the Venezuelan crude oil through commodity brokers and in world markets. And yeah, I mean, all this, I guess, is being planned and negotiated as we speak. But it really, it's not clear. Again, it goes back to why this was all done. It's not clear what the hell's going on, why this is being done, what the purpose is, and what's to be achieved. Supposedly, all executives have been invited to the White House to have a discussion. They are very weary of this because their message ultimately is this is too hard, too expensive. There are other oil fields around the world that we could be extracting oil from that would be more profitable for us, safer for us, easier for us. This is going to require, as I said, tens of billions of dollars and a decade to completely rebuild those oil fields. Why would we do that when there are much easier places to invest our money right now? Again, a mess, no real plan, typical Trump, a lot of bravado, a lot of chest thumping, but not much. The good news is that China is pissed off. China accuses U.S. of stealing its oil. Now, part of the problem here is that China claims that it's already paid for this oil, that it already paid Venezuela in its oil. It's given Venezuela loans, and it's paid straight out a big chunk of it. They have a loan for oil deal with the Maduro regime, and now they can't get the oil. There's a blockade. The Chinese are not going to be able to get through the blockade. This shows the inability of China to project power beyond the South China Sea. So, China's upset. They've lost billions in oil, and they've lost access. Now, again, Venezuela is not a major source of Chinese oil. However, if there was ever a conflict with the West, and the West got the Middle East to boycott China, then Venezuela would become a major source. Now it won't, because now Trump controls it. So that is the one upside of what happened in terms of just increased control over Chinese oil, which might be a restraint over Chinese aggression. All right. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, Rubio is in Congress right now, explaining to them two things. One, we're not going to go to Greenland. We're not going to invade Greenland. We're going to buy it from Denmark. We're putting together a package, very attractive. We're going to buy it from Denmark. Nobody's talking about military invasion. That's what Rubio says, as Trump is talking about, and Miller is talking about occupying it. So there's no question Rubio is the most reasonable guy in the administration. I don't think he's very good or very knowledgeable, but he's the most reasonable of all of them, right? But he is also trying to convince Congress that they have a process for Venezuela. They know what they're doing. There's a plan. The plan has 3 stages. First step is stabilizing the country. Second phase is going to be recovery, which is oil, and making sure that the West has access to Venezuelan markets. And the first phase will be a transition to a freer society. That is the plan. We will see. Venezuelan markets have gone through the roof. Venezuelan markets are very thin. It doesn't take much. Thin means not a lot of liquidity. So it doesn't take much trading to drive prices way up, which is what's happening. I don't think this is going up because of big volume players coming in and buying a lot of stocks. But yeah, the probability of Venezuela becoming a wealthier, freer place has gone from, 5% to, let's say, 35%. That justifies a huge increase in the stock market. It doesn't mean certainty. It doesn't mean even high probability. It just means much better. Now, Chevron is up sharply because Chevron is the one oil company that is already operating, American oil company that already operates in Venezuela. So it is now in even a better situation because it is now, in a sense, protected by the U.S. government, at least implicitly, and potentially in a position to exploit its existing positioning in Venezuela to make more money. And if the United States can start selling the oil that Chevron is shipping out in world markets, if basically the embargo on sales of Venezuelan oil is lifted because America's selling that oil, then Chevron will make a lot of money. So it makes complete sense that Chevron stock is way up. But it's just the whole thing is fairly crazy. And again, while Trump is committing and telling everybody that U.S. oil companies are going to go in and they're going to upgrade and they're going to make the Venezuelan oil fields super duper, the oil companies are not interested. They don't want it, and they don't want it, and they're going to go into the White House and they're going to have to tell Trump this to his face. Believe me, they are not looking forward to it. All right, let's do a quick update from Iran. There's not a lot to update. I'll just say demonstrations are indeed continuing. From what I can tell, we have not reached a tipping point. It's hard to tell to what extent we're getting closer to that tipping point, but we have not reached a tipping point. There are stories that there are now 2 cities in Iran that are being taken over by demonstrators, that they have overrun police stations and authority buildings, and the demonstrators control 2 cities. I don't know, again, how much of that is true and what that means, right? I mean, maybe there was no, other than police, there was no real arms there, and what happens when the Islamic Revolutionary Guard shows up and stuff like that, we don't know. Also, there are indications that the Kurds, I mentioned this yesterday, the Kurds are getting more aggressive. They've now made a public statement about their right to self-defense, and that if the Iranian military units are sent into the area, they will fight them. And supposedly they've already engaged in firefights against the Iranian military or Revolutionary Guard, hard to tell, in the areas of northwest Iran. The demonstrations are still quite large. They're not getting smaller. They're not getting massively bigger, which needs to happen again for that tipping point. Demonstrations have to be even bigger than they are right now. Particularly, the key now is Tehran and maybe a couple of other major cities. Maybe workers in the oil fields would have to strike. That, I think, would have a big, a potentially a significant influence. And, of course, the tipping point will come. Will come when, if and when, units within the military basically switch sides. Units within the military are willing to actually engage in violence on behalf of the demonstrators, either in protecting them or in taking over government facilities in Tehran or in significant units around. So we need military, not police. Police is not very effective in Iran. You've got the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, which I don't expect to defect. You've got the Bajuka, whatever, I can't pronounce their name. These are paramilitary units that are used to suppress the local population. This is what Israel, they blew up 3 of their bases in Tehran and killed a lot of them. I don't expect them to defect. I do expect the military to defect, the regular military. That is where the action will be. That is who is potentially going to defect. You could see, some of those, you could see more moderates within the regime defecting. And we will see. So the tipping point will come when there is a militarized units on the side of fighting on the side of the protesters, where it's not just one-sided when it comes to weapons. Now, again, some police forces in some of the smaller towns have handed over their weapons and basically surrendered and been taken over, but that hasn't happened in large scale in Tehran. So I still don't see the tipping point, but the Iranians so far, at least again from what I can tell from here, which unfortunately is not as much as I would like, are not giving up. They're continuing to demonstrate. They continue to go out in the streets. I think the main job of the son of the Shah right now, is to try to convince military commanders to flip sides. So again, the towns of Abdanan and Malkeshahi in western Iran have been liberated, and Khamenei's government forces fled. Protesters chanted death to Khamenei, and that happened yesterday. We will see what happens. Women are heavily involved in many of the demonstrations. Many women taking off their hijabs, waving it in the faces of the government troops. Crowds rallying around them in support. It is really powerful. Now, of course, the Iranian regime had already loosened up the rules in terms of the hijab. So out of the girls' revolution, I'm seeing videos coming out of Iran of protesters tackling Islamic Republican agents in various cities. I'm looking at a video right now from Isfahan. Isfahan is one of those key cities with Qom and Tehran that are going to, and maybe a couple of others that are going to have to fall in a sense. Not only are they beating up some of these thugs that the regime has hired, but they're also taking their weapons. So, we will see. But it's God. There's another video of a guy with a flamethrower, basically setting fire to people from the regime on motorcycles, and then running away, being chased by the motorcycles. So I don't know what his fate is going to be. We will see. We will see. Supposedly the Iranian national team was playing soccer at an international game today or yesterday, and the players refused to sing the national anthem. So again, little signs of rebellion that are there, but that's happened before. Didn't lead to the regime falling. So we're still waiting for that tipping point to happen. We're still waiting for this to get so big, so substantial that it cannot be stopped. All right. All right. That is Iran. Quickly on Ukraine. There is some indication that Trump is again in the midst of some indication. Does Iran think this was about drugs? I never thought this was about drugs. I said that was the excuse they were using in order to make it seem like it was legal. I never thought it was about drugs. And I explained why. It made no difference. Drugs make no difference, and it would have made no difference. But that's the excuse Trump administration is using to assert the legality of it. That's all. I never argued it was about drugs. The Trump administration seems to be in one of those phases where they are not happy with Putin. As a consequence, it seems like the special envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who are right now in Europe, talking to U.S. allies about Ukraine and talking to Zelensky and U.S. allies around Ukraine, are much more Ukraine and Europe friendly than they were just a few weeks ago. They are discussing right now a multinational peacekeeping force, and the Americans are agreeing for the first time to a much more robust security guarantees for Ukraine, and that these guarantees will be similar to those under NATO's Article 5, would commit the United States to come to Ukraine's defense in the event of any future attack by Russia. This would be something that would kick into place once there was a ceasefire, although I don't know who is delusional enough to think that there's going to be a ceasefire. Well, I mean, one possibility is that Putin decides that really things are futile and he better have a ceasefire. The reality is that, the Russian war machine is grinding to a halt, and the Ukrainians are actually making on a localized basis in certain parts of the front, making progress against the Russians. Russian troops are exhausted. They do not have. They're under-equipped. Basically, the armored vehicles have been destroyed. There are very few Soviet-era tanks left. Their production is a tiny fraction of what it was a long time ago. They're unequipped. Their commanders don't care about their lives, so they're unmotivated. And it's not going well for Russia on the front, in battle. It was, a couple of months ago. And they claimed they had captured the strategic city. Since then, they've been kicked out of this town completely. And Ukraine has been making progress on a number of different fronts. Europe is backing Ukraine's war effort. The United States is not. Europe is backing it, but steadily, systematically. And Europe is hard to emphasize this enough, much, much, much richer than Russia. I mean, what's keeping the Russian war machine going right now is not Russia. It's China. Russia is completely right now dependent on China supplying it with defense components to be able to build whatever it is that it needs building. Without China, it collapses. And think about what's happened to Russia recently, right? They've lost Syria, and they've lost, it looks like, Venezuela, and they might very well be losing Iran. What do they have left? North Korea, And China, and it's not clear to me that China's just going to give them a blank check. There's actually people in China right now, like podcasters and influencers in China right now, advocating heavily for China to take Eastern Russia. Like it's Chinese territory going back, I don't know how long you want to go back, but it's originally Chinese territory they're claiming, and we should just take it. Russia's weak. Russia can't do anything about it. We can practice war, and let's just take Eastern Russia. Why are we helping Russia fight on the West when Russia's really an enemy of ours? Russia has, it can't really utilize Cuba in any meaningful way. I mean, basically, Russia is a collapsing country, a collapsing power. All it has is an aging nuclear arsenal. That's it. Nothing else. And it's, if Trump was a good negotiator, if Trump could think, and if he had decent people around him, then he would enter any negotiation with Russia, understanding how weak Russia really is, and cram a deal down their throat. It would be very easy. I mean, if the United States decided to open the spigots up of aid to Ukraine, the Russian front would collapse, and Russia would go into a economic spiral it would be very difficult for them to get out of. Some people around Putin know this. They're the people Trump should be talking to and push them to end this on Ukraine's terms, not on Russia's terms. All right, let's move to some domestic policy stories. So, I mean, this one is just, I find this just horrific. We talked about January 6th yesterday and my views on January 6th. Anyway, it turns out that yesterday the White House published a website rewriting the history of January 6th. And really trying to completely reshape the narrative around what happened that day. They want to rewrite history. Now, notice, this isn't just a MAGA group doing this. It isn't even a school district doing this. This is the government of the United States. This is the executive branch of the government of the United States issuing its version of history. According to this version, Democrats and some Republicans have engaged in a witch hunt against Donald Trump over January 6th. According to them, Special Counsel Jack Smith told the House committee, was the vehicle by which this witch hunt was exercised. Now, as we talked about on the show, Jack Smith said that, no, he had plenty of evidence against Trump, and thought he could have won a conviction. To quote Smith, the evidence here made clear that President Trump was by a large measure the most culpable and most responsible person in this conspiracy. These crimes were committed for his belief. The attack that happened at the Capitol, part of this case, does not happen without him. But Trump is denying anything. There wasn't a riot. It was just a demonstration. It was peaceful. According to the White House website, 0 law enforcement officers lost their lives, in spite of the fact that U.S. Capitol Officer Brian D. Sicknick died the following day after the assault on the riot. So who cares about police? This is the law enforcement president. Who cares about police? As long as it's done in my name, it's all good. The fact that law enforcement was injured is not mentioned in any of this. Nothing is mentioned. This was just a no big deal at all. Right? I mean, I think this is an embarrassment to the congressmen who were there, embarrassment to the senators. Of course, they won't challenge Trump. The most you'll get is John Thune, a majority leader, saying the Capitol Police do a great job around here when asked about the website. I mean, these people are unbelievable cowards. The new website repeats the claim that Nancy Pelosi at the time is to blame for the security lapses. No basis for that exists. It denies this idea that Trump didn't do anything, sat on his hands for the whole time. Anyway, this is the White House, the U.S. government trying to rewrite history. Probably not the first time it's happened in American history, but still pretty despicable, disgusting, horrific, horrible thing. And Congress's cowardice is worth mentioning and repeating and reminding you of, because it's really unbelievable. It's the most cowardly Congress ever. These Republicans will go down in history as the most cowardly politicians in American history. All right, let's see. Oh, good news. The Health and Human Services today announced a new food pyramid. The government, who is very good at telling you what you should eat and at advising you about your own health, has now issued a revised new health pyramid. Now, it turns out this health pyramid, to some extent at least, much more aligns with what I eat. So I'm going to tell you my biases in advance. It aligns with what I eat and what I've come to the conclusion of in terms of health and so on. But should we really look for our government to tell us what to eat? Here's the new food pyramid. You see grains way at the bottom, so you should need a lot of grains, very little grains. Steak is right at the top, and cheese. And chicken. Steak, cheese, and chicken. And a little bit of broccoli and some carrots. Those are the things. And peas. They're big on peas. Peas are in a bag for some reason. Everything else, and there are green beans here as well and stuff. Olive oil right in the middle here, beautifully. I do find it interesting that salmon is below the cheese and below the steak. You'd think that would be reversed. But what do I know? I don't know anything about, and eggs are below, and avocado is below all this. You'd think avocado would be on top there somewhere. But what do I know, right? What do I know? And here you have the government telling you what to eat. And this is stupid and horrible. The government shouldn't be in the business of telling us what to eat. You should decide that for yourself. Talk to your doctor, do some research, watch some TikTok videos. That's really, really important because you'll probably get the best advice from TikTok videos. That's what most people do. No, I'm serious. Talk to your doctor. Figure it out. The past food pyramid was probably pretty harmful, telling you to eat a lot of grains. But I don't know that this is better. Protein, dairy, and healthy fat. Look at the fat on that steak. Is that fat on that steak healthy fat? Does that cow need to be grain fed or grass fed or grain fed or what fed? I mean, do we really know? Nuts. You notice nuts are really low on this, right here in the bottom. Shouldn't they be on the top? I don't know. What do I know? Nuts make up a big chunk of my diet, so I'm all for nuts being at the top of the food pyramid, not at the very not low down. Yeah. Some of you will say that the grass-fed beef, that fat is good, but to the extent that fat, that saturated fat, increases your ApoB, probably increases the chances of some calcification in the arteries and heart disease and who knows what else. I don't know. I mean, again, just me, I'm not a doctor. But I don't think this represents consensus. I don't think there should be consensus. And I think you should decide about what to eat based on you, you, and based on your blood work and based on your consultation with your doctor, get the government out of our food, out of our health generally, out of our food. Lean beef is probably better for you. Although, lean beef sucks in terms of flavor. The fat is where all the good stuff is. But yeah. Now, how much of this is lobbying? How much of this is real? I mean, I know that some people believe in a carnivore diet and they do a carnivore diet, but really? Stop. Also, to what extent do we think that diet is universal? We should all eat the same thing. Aren't we different? We have different biomes in our guts. We have different metabolisms. We exercise differently. We have we just have different genes. We have lots of different things. Should our diets be individualized? Anyway, you say it's lobbying, but I'm suspicious. I don't think it's lobbying. I think it's just, what's his name? RFK succumbing to the latest fad. The latest fad is keto. The latest fad is low carb. That's the latest thing. And because if you think about lobbying, who's more powerful in terms of lobbying than the grain, the corn lobby, the wheat lobby, the Middle Eastern? I mean, imagine what are all the Midwestern Republican senators going to say about this food pyramid? They have been lobbying forever and ever to keep grains high. So I don't know if this is lobbying or if it's just the latest faddish dietary recommendations, which might change in 5 years or 10 years or tomorrow, for all we know. There is a science of nutrition. There is truth. I just don't know if we've discovered the truth, and I don't know that the government should be the arbiter of truth. You say the corn lobby? Oh my God, the corn lobby is huge. It's like one of the most powerful lobbies in the United States, much bigger than AIPAC. Why do you have corn syrup in your sodas? Because of the corn lobby. Why are there huge tariffs and importation restrictions on sugar? Because of the corn lobby. Why do we have ethanol in our gasoline? Because of the corn lobby. Corn is a huge lobby, and they want grains. They're for grains, not against grains. All right, let's see what else. We have hiring and housing. Let's do hiring. Data's coming out that hiring is actually being really bad. New data shows that new hiring, the hiring rates is the most alarming labor market signal today. Low payroll growth. It's the lowest since the financial crisis, which are really, really hurting. Low hiring primarily hurts young people. They're newly entering the labor market. Their employment rates have fallen in the past year. So young people, new people entering the markets have gone down over the last year, much more than other age groups. So 16 to 19-year-olds, 20 to 24-year-olds, you're seeing a negative increase in the number of people working. Other age groups are holding steady, approximately. Not great, not growing, but holding steady. And the only age group where it's really increased seems to be the 55 to 59 age group. But again, hiring is at the lowest since 2011. And except for, the worst days of the pandemic. This kind of level of low hiring is usually when unemployment is around 8%. Unemployment is only at 4.6%. So that's kind of, and this is not AI. This is all Trump policies. This is all tariffs and stuff like that. So, yeah, hiring is not looking good. Job openings decline to the lowest level in more than a year, consistent with the idea of hiring. So it's not just hiring less, there are also less positions out there. For a long time, there were lots of positions, hard to find people to fill them. Now the positions are going and the hiring is going. In spite of the fact, by the way, that we're kicking out a lot of illegal immigrants who were working. Now, whatever hiring is happening is basically happening in healthcare, and it's happening at large firms. As we've discussed, tariffs have particularly hurt small to medium-sized private firms. They're the ones shedding workers, and this also explains why the stock market is up. The stock market is up because large firms are doing fine. Big business is doing fine. They're shielded by a variety of different means from the tariffs. They're the ones hiring. Small firms, firing. Medium firms, stagnant. And again, most of the hires, we talked about this yesterday as well, are in the healthcare space. All right, finally, a little bit on housing. And here's the point I want to make about this. Populism, political populism, of the right, of the left, it doesn't really matter. Populism is an ideology. It's not, can't even really call it an ideology. Populism is a way of approaching economic issues based on what is going to be popular, based on what the people want, not based on what will work, not based on economic theory, not based on facts of reality, not based on economics or data or anything, just based on what's popular. Well, one of the big common perspectives on the housing crisis is, and this used to be primarily a talking point of the left and has become a talking point of MAGA as well, is that the housing crisis is a consequence of corporations, big business, buying up lots of homes, primarily single-family homes, in buying up whole neighborhoods and dominating single-family homes. Now, I've talked about this in the past, and I've shown you that that is all nonsense. The data doesn't support it. Rents actually go down where corporations buy large numbers of homes. The number of homes being bought is so small relative to the total number of homes on the market in America that it really is insignificant. So we've covered all that. But it doesn't matter. The economics don't matter. What matters is that this is the popular belief. And the job of leaders is not, it turns out, to lead. It's to, basically affirm popular beliefs even when they're false and stupid. So here is what Donald Trump posted today. For a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially young Americans. It is for that reason, and much more, I wonder what the much more is, that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes. And I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic further, including further housing and affordability proposals and more at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. What does Davos care about this? Anyway, so, Trump too is blaming big business for the rise in housing costs in America. Why? Not for any reason that's associated with facts, truth, economics, data, but because I guess that's what people expect him to do. That's what people demand. So our central planner in chief is going to stop corporations from buying homes. I'm not sure under what law he can do that. I'm not sure under what regulation they can do that. I'm not sure if that holds up in court. I guess if Congress passes a law, maybe they could get away with it. It seems pretty horrific to me. but maybe it can be done. But this is the one of the greatest. We are told by prominent people, the greatest president in American history is now prohibiting corporations from owning homes and getting into the oil business by selling, taking over and selling and taking the money and redistributing it based on his ideas. I mean, to hell with Congress, to hell with property rights, and to hell with, I don't know, government not getting involved in the economy. But still, greatest president ever, ever, ever. All right. Thank you, guys. That is the news for this Wednesday, January 7th. I should note one other thing about the date today. Today is can I do the math right? Today is the 11th anniversary. Yeah, it's the 11th anniversary of the Yaron Brook Show. The show was launched on January 7th, 2015. It is also the 11th anniversary of the Charlie Hebdo massacre, which of course was also January 7th, 2015. So I've been going at it since 2015. And today is the anniversary of the show. I don't know how many shows I've done since then. Since I do hundreds a year, we're well over 10,000 live shows, I think. Well over 1,000 shows, live shows, I think. Although in the early days I did fewer, but now I do a lot more than 100 a year. So yes, we're way, way over 1,000 shows a year since I started. Some of you I know have been there from the beginning, listening and supporting. So thank you to all of you. Many I've lost. I've lost thousands of people over the years by not embracing Trump, not embracing irrationality, not embracing a rejection of objectivism. By sticking to objectivism, I've lost a lot of listeners and a lot of money, but probably gained more ultimately in the long run by sticking to principles. I should have talked more about free speech today, but there was these other topics. We will get back to free speech, which was the topic of my first show, the Charlie Hebdo show, the day that Charlie Hebdo was attacked. But we will get back to that topic, I promise. So thank you to all of you guys who've been around. We are launching some merchandise today, special anniversary merchandise of the Yaron Brook Show. You can find that merchandise on my YouTube store. If you go to YouTube, if you go to my channel on YouTube, there's a button there for a store, and you can click on that, and you can find a bunch of T-shirts and mugs and hoodies and stuff like that, and I think there's a special YBS Anniversary ceramic mug. There you go. So yes. So go buy some Yaron Brook Show T-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. I know some of you already have some of the merchandise. All right, let's see. Yes, all right. Let me remind you of our sponsors. Alex Epstein has been a sponsor of the show for over a year now. Alex is the leading thinker in the world, really, in issues relating to oil, fossil fuels more generally, energy, climate change, and environmentalism. Alex has a Substack, alexepstein.substack.com, where you will learn things about the industry, about the world, about policy. Alex is also running, by the way, a lobbying entity, an entity lobbying on behalf of freedom. What a concept. I don't know that anybody has ever had an entire lobbying organization devoted to freedom. Freedom in the realm of energy, but of course, extrapolate from that to everything. I think he's actually hiring people to be lobbyists. So if you guys know of anybody who has some knowledge of the industry and would like to be a freedom lobbyer in Washington, D.C. for energy, then contact Alex. I think he's got a referral fee of like $50,000. So, tell him I referred you. But yes, you should definitely contact Alex and definitely tell him I referred you. Alex's Substack is incredible. It's incredibly informative, educational, and you will learn a lot from it. So head on over to alexepstein.substack.com. All right, what are we doing here? I was checking something out. All right, what else? We've got hendershotwealth.com/YBS. Hendershot Wealth as products that can save you a lot of money on capital gains taxes. You can check out an interview I did with Robert Hendershot on my channel. Just Yaron Brook Hendershot, or Hendershot with 2 T's. Or check out the playlists on the playlist sponsors. You'll find the video there. So check that out, and yeah, contact them at hendershotwealth.com/YBS. And Michael Williams. Michael Williams is the founder and the owner of defendersofcapitalism.com. And check out Defenders of Capitalism, capitalism.com for the great work they do defending the morality of capitalism from an objectivist, ultimately from an objectivist perspective in leadership program of the Rockies and other places, defendersofcapitalism.com. And finally, the Ayn Rand Institute reminds you that next week, the Ayn Rand ARI live courses are starting. And you should sign up. You can get a discount from the Yaron Brook Show, and it's 26YBS10, 26YBS10. You can find out more information about all the courses on AynRand.org/start here. If you'd like to attend my public speaking seminar, it's 8 classes, 2 hours each class. You will, everybody in the class will be expected to do actual presentation via Zoom, which I will critique, a short one, 5-10 minutes, twice. So once, get criticism. Second time, show me you've improved. Yeah, all of that would be is available. Nikos has a course, Ben has a course, and I think Onkar is teaching. So check it out. AynRand.org/start here. Sign up. YBS. 26 YBS 10. All right. Reminder that you can support the show by asking a question, which is a great way to support the show because then I get to talk about what you want me to talk about. You can also do a sticker, which is means you don't have to ask a question. Some of you don't want to ask a question. Jimmy, thank you for the sticker. Silvanos, thank you for the sticker. CP Milken, thank you for the sticker. Rob, thank you for the sticker. And one more, Mike Dial, thank you for the sticker. And then we've got Gail and Jimmy and Jason. So thank you guys. I think I got everybody. Thank you for the stickers. Really appreciate that. So all of you, we've got 170 watching right now. Come on over, do a sticker. We're $193 short of our second hour goal. We do have a hard stop at the second hour, so we won't go into a third hour, but let's try to make the second hour goal. That would really be terrific if we make our goals every day. Thomas is working on a question. I appreciate that. If any of you have $20, $50 questions, that is even better because that gets us to our goal faster. But you can do a sticker for $2, $5, $10, any amount that you want, up to $500. Please consider doing so. And of course, don't forget to like the show. Like the show. Doesn't cost you anything to like it. It helps the algorithm. Also, it would be great if those of you who are not yet subscribers, please subscribe to the show. Subscribe to the show. Finally, if you want to support the show and you're not here live, and generally you'd like to support the show on kind of a monthly basis, you can do that on patreon.com. Patreon.com, just go to patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show, and make a monthly contribution. It's going to be a big push this year to try to drive those numbers up. It would be great to get like 10 new contributors on Patreon a month over the next year. That will help a lot. I mean, if we could get 20 more, that would be even better. You can also do PayPal. PayPal also works. YouTube memberships also work. Patreon, I think, is the easiest for everybody. Do it. Do it. Don't procrastinate. I know some of you want to have thought about it. I've been listening to the show for years and haven't contributed and would like to, and you're feeling a little guilty. Well, just go and do it, and then the guilt goes away. And you should feel guilty, after all. Of course, all within your means, what you can afford and what value the show actually represents. Trader, win-win. I don't want anybody sacrificing, losing, doing it out of guilt, doing it out of me asking you. Do it because it's the right thing to do. And you think it's the right thing to do, not because I think it's the right thing to do. All right. Patreon above $25 gives you access to the audio only of the old membership only shows. But you can also just do a membership here on YouTube. Somebody who was John Wayland. John Wayland actually did 5 gifts. So some of you just became members thanks to Johnny's contribution. All right, let's start with James, who has a $50 question. Thank you, James. Really, really, really appreciate that. He says, will rhetoric get more vicious and nasty, but life will keep getting better every decade? There's a mismatch between the verbiage of our wealth and technological progress, than the enlightenment in daily life versus nihilism in ivory tower. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to continue, at least for the foreseeable future. At some point, progress will slow and maybe even reverse, but that could take a long time. And the actual verbiage might go up and down, but the philosophical direction, I don't see right now the elements would reverse it and move it in an opposite direction. So yes, it does seem like we have to suffer the nihilism in the ivory tower, in spite of the fact that our quality of life, standard of living, is going up, and will probably continue with AI. Except, thank you. Except 1254, thank you for the sticker as well. I appreciate that a lot. All right, Clark, does anyone really believe Trump does all he does without congressional approval? It isn't formal and public, but I doubt Congress is not informed. Oh no, I'm pretty convinced Congress is not informed. Why would he inform them? What benefit is there for him? Why does he care? He doesn't. So no, I actually believe Congress is not informed, and that he does not everything, but he does a lot without asking them, without telling them, without any consultation. All right, Harper Campbell has a 3-part question, it looks like. To push back on your dismissal of private gun ownership, where you said during a time of revolution like the Iran today, people will break into military bases and steal their guns. Isn't it easier to break into those bases if the population is already armed legally? The reason October 7th was successful and the Iranian Revolution may not be is because both countries don't have a Second Amendment type law. I mean, look, I am not against a civilian being armed, particularly if you live by a border with hostile barbarians on the other side of it. So the fact that the populace in October 7th, the Israelis, were not fully armed is, again, one of those major scandals that the Israeli government should pay for, i.e. Netanyahu should take responsibility for and pay for. They forced these localities to lock their guns up in safe rooms preventing them from actually accessing them ultimately when they most needed them. Look, I'm not opposed to people having some arms. But look, the reality is that your M16 or your Glock handgun is not going to save you from an authoritarian government. It never has, and it never will. I don't know of any case in which a population was saved from an authoritarian government because it had weapons. And ultimately, in order to actually overthrow an authoritarian government like the American Revolution, they had to acquire systematic weapons and actually engage in systematic military engagement, which required more than the kind of weapon you have in your, I don't know, gun safe. Most people, almost all people, are untrained to use these weapons. The people they're going to go up against are fully trained. So I just don't know what the scenario is that is going to, and look, I'm for Second Amendment, for self-defense. I just don't see what you're going to do versus an F-35. I don't know what you think you're going to do against an Abrams tank. Right. With your guns locked away in the gun safe. A Glock, what are you going to do with that Glock? No, it's true. You can use those guns to help you break into an armory and steal bigger and better guns. Fine. Ultimately, you have to break into that armory, otherwise you have no hope. The first step in breaking into the army might actually be, I mean, I don't know, jump some police officers and steal their guns. I mean, once you're dedicated to a revolution, I don't think not having a Second Amendment was what's preventing you from getting guns. And again, I'm looking for historical analogies, for historical examples of this. Like, did revolutions require Second Amendments? I don't know of any revolution that's ever required the population to be armed, legally armed. And here's the other thing about it, which is kind of funny to me. This is the funny part, right? Who's going to protect your Second Amendment? Well, the courts and the police and the government. But as the government gets more authoritarian, who's going to protect your Second Amendment? That is, slowly and systematically, they will take your guns away. And they'll take your guns away before you declare a revolution. And some of you will hide them better and be able to preserve them better. But the whole point of having guns is so when we get to authoritarianism, we will rebel against them. But when we get to authoritarianism, that's going to be a slow process. It won't be all in one day. And during that process, they're going to take many of your guns. But, the United States has a large military. Look, there are groups out there that are militias that are trained. They're going to fight each other. Whose side are you going to be on? I mean, the whole idea of the United States having a revolution is, I don't know. I think it's science fiction. We'd probably get a civil war. The people most well-trained in using guns are the ones who would, I don't know what side they'd fight for. And who are we going to fight for? We? Us? People around here? I don't know. So I'm not against guns. I just don't think that it's going to save you. I don't think it'll save you. I don't think guns have ever saved anybody. Particularly given that we who actually won liberty in America are such a tiny minority. We're going to have to fight everybody, including our neighbors. So I guess my bottom line is I just don't get the concern about it. A regime that is authoritarian will not tolerate the Second Amendment. a regime that tolerates the Second Amendment, you don't need the Second Amendment because they're not authoritarian. Like in Iran, if Iran had a Second Amendment, but of course Iran won't have a Second Amendment. Iran they've lived under authoritarian rule since 1979. Even if they had a Second Amendment before 1979, that would have been undone and the guns confiscated from 79 till today. And it's not like in 1980, 81, or 82, the Iranians wanted a revolt. They didn't. So they would have handed over their weapons. Just me. I don't get it. Thomas, thank you. $20. I appreciate the question. What's the statue behind you, behind your right arm? Is that a David? Yes, that's a David. It's a 19th century David. He's sheathing his sword, right? But the sword is broken, so you don't see the sword. But it's David. His raised leg, which you can't really see, is stepping on the head of Goliath. So he's just cut Goliath's head off with his sword, and he's sheathing it, and yeah, it's a beautiful sculpture. I think it's a young David. It's a youthful David. It's beautifully done. It is a 19th century casting of a 19th century bronze sculpture by a pretty famous French sculptor. You can find these kind of sculptures for very reasonable prices. I mean, not reasonable, cheap prices relative to their value on the web and various sites. And once in a while, my wife and I will buy something, and this is one of the finds that we have. It's really beautiful. You can't. I mean, I kind of feel bad for you guys because you only kind of almost only see a silhouette of it, but in real life, it is truly magnificent. Thank you, Thomas. All right, Christoph. The ridiculous U.S. administration have arrested a brutal dictator who oppresses millions on drug trafficking charges. I will so laugh if he is acquitted. That would be funny, particularly given now that the same U.S. administration is admitting that the cartel that they accused him of heading doesn't really exist. So it's not clear what the charges are going to be when the cartel is disappeared. The original of this David is not in Florence. No, this is not Donatello's David, which is a little similar. This is a 19th century. It might be in Paris. I'm not sure, but it's not in Florence. Liam, other than Germany, no other Western country was completely pulled into oblivion by altruism. Well, Russia, I don't know if you consider Russia a Western country. What about all of Europe during the Dark Ages? So are you talking about modern times or secular times? What do you call it? Italy under fascism? Spain under fascism? Not quite to the level of sacrificing other people like the Germans did, but pretty demanding of sacrifice of their own people. So not sure that that's accurate. Michael, is the deregulation Trump is allowing more beneficial than his corporate tax cuts? No, because the corporate tax cuts stick. The deregulation, Biden overturned many of them. The next administration will overturn many of them. It's easy to overturn the kind of deregulation Trump is doing. So the long-term benefit is smaller. The short-term benefit might be larger, but their long-term benefit is smaller. Hopper Campbell, I understand why Rand changed her name to protect her family in Russia, but where did she come up with the name Ayn? Why not just keep her first name Alicia? I think she liked Ayn. It has similar letters to Alicia. Ayn is a Scandinavian name, and I think it comes from her love of kind of the Viking stories that she read as a child, and I think there was a character there, but she liked the name Ayn from there, so that's where it came from. Alicia would have been too obviously Russian, and I think Ayn, it's not clear where it's from. If it's anywhere, it's Scandinavia. Paul says Venezuelans need to go on strike and stop producing oil, but then they'll starve. It's the only thing that they actually produce and export and have any money coming into the economy. So it's not like they would have a very hard time surviving without oil revenue. Very hard time. And, you know, they don't have incomes. They don't have saving. I don't see it happening. Michael, do you get the sense Europeans are proud of their altruism and welfare systems, whereas Americans go along with it begrudgingly? Yes, partially because the Americans also understand or know that their system is particularly inefficient and ineffective and wasteful and fraudulent. Europeans at least run a good welfare system. I mean, good based on the standards of welfare system. They're much more efficient, effective, and I think they do have a certain pride in it. False pride, but a pride nonetheless. They're very good at redistributing other people's money. Michael, violating our Constitution's separation of powers and the rule of law to remove a tyrant who violated his own Constitution is not a victory to celebrate. No, it's not. It's not. And to see this administration and the thuggishness of this administration and the lack of strategy and the lack of thinking and the lack of long-term perspective is stunning. Even though you expect it, it's still stunning every time you look at it. Michael, at some point, Americans who believe that principles and not might make right are going to have to take back their government. Yes, but how many Americans are like that? I don't know. And what principles do they have? Many of them on the left and have bad principles of their own. But yes, this administration will not last forever. It will do damage that will last for a very long time, but they will not last forever. James, how many conflicts or wars do you predict will happen this year? Do you have any thought on Thailand versus Cambodia? I don't know. I have no idea how many wars and conflicts will break out. No idea. Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to start thinking about it. You'd have to map out the world and go region by region. I know very little about the conflicts in Africa, where a lot of the conflicts today are happening. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have many thoughts on Thailand versus Cambodia. It's a border dispute that goes back a long time. Thailand's a significantly stronger economy, significantly stronger military. So I don't know what the Cambodians are thinking. I don't know who's in the right in this one. It really is. It is really hard to tell. It's sad. It's a beautiful part of the world. I have a lot of sympathy for the peoples there. They are incredibly friendly and pleasant, and Thailand is a land of smiles for a reason. It's just God, a stupid war. What the hell for? What the hell for? It would be nice if the places over there became richer and more prosperous. Particularly Cambodia, that has such a horrible history of it's the one country in the world that was taken over by egalitarians and who managed to kill 40% of their own population. And they still haven't recovered from that. Not your average algorithm. Part 1. Okay, Martin Luther King pushed a fairly individualistic view that the core of racism is to judge people as individuals. That the cure for racism, thank you, the cure for racism is to judge people as individuals. But the thing that won out is the idea that racism is wrong because it's not egalitarian. And the cure is to sacrifice the privileged until everyone is equal. I I think that's right. But I think for a while, people really did hold. I think most people in America held this idea of treat people as individuals. And something changed, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, it's hard to tell. And it happened at the universities, and it happened with young people. It happened because of education. A new form of racism came out of the left. And it really got going with identity politics and intersectionality and all of that stuff. And as I said, when it was really raging in the 20-teens, it will cause racism on the right. So it caused or maybe revived the racism of the right. But really, racism was not an issue in America, at least not an explicit issue in America, for a long time after the Civil Rights Movement. And there was this internalization of treat people as individuals. And people were frustrated with DEI like programs, affirmative action. Nobody wanted to do anything about it, but there was frustration about it. And then the combination with that frustration plus the identitarian politics of the left have now caused racism to just explode across the political spectrum. Scott, may be relevant to the Russian ship seizure, Ursa Major, which is a Russian heavy lift ship. It's the name of the ship. Oh, yeah. This is the ship that was sunk off of Spain in December 2024. Not clear who sunk it. And supposedly it was carrying nuclear reactor components, not the reactors themselves, components, to North Korea. So, hard to tell. That's a murky story filled with rumors. Hard to tell what the truth is. The ship is at the bottom of the sea. But yes, it does look like it was actually sunk. And it does look like it was carrying some kind of nuclear components. So this ship now was caught, wasn't sunk. We'll see what actually is on board. And why would it be going from Iran to Venezuela? What would it be carrying? I can't imagine it's nuclear anything. It might be missiles. It might be weapons. It might be drones. I just don't know. Going to be interesting. But yeah, I did read about that. It is probably relevant, but still, there's still not enough certainty about what that was all about. Big Fred, do you think Trump prefers to have a corrupt regime in Venezuela? It seems to me that having a freedom-loving government in Venezuela would make it harder for him to justify his manipulative threats. Yeah, I mean, I think he wants somebody who he can, quote, work with. He wants somebody who he will do his bidding, will say, yes, Trump, to whatever he says. And maybe an authoritarian government is easier to deal with. I mean, ultimately, he would like his government to be authoritarian. He's not exactly a lover of freedom. That's not what motivates him and drives him. And he deals with people like Putin and people like Xi much better than he deals with elected officials. So, yes, I agree with you. Roland says, as far as the Swiss super chatters are concerned, your food pyramid should be cheese, 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 chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. I could live with that. I could live with that. Particularly if the chocolate was really, really dark chocolate, then yeah, cheese and chocolate is an amazing diet. Thank you, Roland. Lincoln, do you think the anti-housing policy is primarily an older thing? I notice young Republicans and Democrats tend to be more pro-housing than older voters. I mean, what do you mean by pro or anti-housing? You mean building housing? I mean, yeah, people who own houses don't want new houses to be built because it makes their value of their houses go up. It's young people who want more houses to be built. So young people are pro-new housing, pro-building of housing. So yes, it's definitely, there's a huge generational component to it. John says, happy birthday. Not birthday, anniversary, but thank you. Laid back pedal pusher. Yay! 11 years of reason on YBS. Thank you. Laid back pedal pusher. Yes. Roland says, happy YBS Anniversary. Thanks for all the shows you've done. Appreciate it. Gary says, congrats on 11 years. Thanks, Yaron. Thank you, Gary. Linda started watching Mr. Sunshine last night. Thanks for the recommendation. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Yeah, notice that the first episode is very difficult to get through. It's hard to tell who's who. There's a lot of flashbacks, so they're moving between times constantly. It takes probably 3 episodes to get into it, really to get into it. So don't give up. Also, one more thing to note. The first couple of episodes are the most violent. So if you have an aversion to violence, then, again, stick through the first couple of episodes, or the first 3 episodes. It gets less violent afterwards. I mean, there's still violence, but it's less gory, or it's less I don't know. I mean, people die throughout the show, but it's just less, I don't know, violent. Less horrific, maybe. And you're in the show, you're bought in, you kind of get it. You get what the purpose is. Lincoln. I'd love to see a show on objectivism's guide to college, focusing on what type of schools are best, dealing with leftists on campus, etc. Interesting. I'll think about that. Lincoln says, seeing the real David in March, can't wait. Yep, you're in for a treat. Lincoln also. Also, for those wanting a cheap way to admire art, you can get prints of some of the best paintings for under $100 often. Yes. And in my home, I have a lot of prints on the wall. It's not like only originals. That would be ridiculous. I've lots of prints on my wall. And a lot of photographs of sculpture on my wall. A lot of photographs that we've blown up and put up on the wall, which I love. All right, Blaze guitar lessons. Well, the $900 billion Medicaid cut hurt hospitals. Yeah. Hospitals rely on Medicare and Medicaid. They're the biggest buyers of medical services. There'll be significant cuts, which they will have to make up somewhere else by raising costs on private insurance. And it leaves people uninsured who are too poor to pay cash. You know, the entire U.S. healthcare delivery system, insurance payment system, needs to be completely reorganized. Just cutting this, cutting that doesn't help. You need to completely reorganize it. Thank you, Blaze Guitar. All right, guys. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I see Wes came in with $50. Appreciate it, Wes. Thanks for all the support over the years now. And thank you for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. I think same time, same place. And with further updates on what is going on in the world. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And don't forget to become a monthly supporter on Patreon. Bye, everybody.